Swami, can we have the flyer? That's Professor Shaila Bakai.
Assalamu alaikum.
उनको नेम कर दें पैनल. Assalamu alaikum, madam. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. And a very warm welcome at this afternoon for this very important panel discussion amidst the pandemic, and when things are coming up, the vaccination is there. The year has changed. We are all hopeful and we are looking forward for having this vaccination easily available and advisable to all people who can have it. So today's panel discussion is having a lot of worthy panelists on our expert panel of experts. We have a speaker who will be giving the keynote talk, Professor Sadia Ahsan Pal, who is the co-chairperson of the academic board. Dr. Sadia Ahsan Pal has been very instrumental for SOGP in developing these guidelines for management of COVID-19 in pregnancy, for their dissemination nationwide through webinars. And now we have added the bit of vaccination to the COVID management guidelines. Professor Sayyida Batul Mazhar, the chairperson for Islamabad chapter, a very active member of academic board and the steering committee of registry of SOGP. Madam Professor Shaila Bakai, the chairperson for various guidelines committees, a very active member of academic board, a counselor at CPSP. Professor Rehana Rahim, the secretary of academic board of SOGP, and also very actively involved in hypertensive disease in pregnancy guideline development for SOGP, as well as for registries and the COVID-19 pregnancy experience sharing webinars for SOGP from Peshawar and the whole of the KPK. We also have a member from National Ministry of Health, the director over there, Madam Dr. Atiya Abru, who's been very instrumental in supporting SOGP for developing these guidelines. Her support at ministry level has been immense. We are very grateful that she has committed to be a part of the panel discussion today. We have Dr. Qudsiya Usma from WHO Pakistan office. She would be joining soon. She has written to us. She has some connectivity issues in her internet as she is traveling right now. Thank you very much. Dr. Khadija Bano, the treasurer of SOGP, would be presenting the vote of thanks. I'm really grateful to all of you for sparing time today, and all those who have linked to us on Zoom as well as on Facebook for this important panel discussion. So first of all, we will like to have President Professor Razia Qurejo give her welcome address to all the members. Dr. Razia Qurejo.
They are all SOGP members, members of the executive board, members of the academic board, and all the other members, viewers, healthcare providers. Assalamu alaikum. It is a great pleasure for me as the president of SOGP to welcome you all today in this very important webinar on guidelines on COVID vaccination in pregnancy and breastfeeding. As all of you know that in pandemic COVID last year, SOGP has had the guidelines for the protection of the COVID patients and protection of the healthcare providers. So we made the guidelines with the help of the Ministry of Health and with the WHO collaboration. And all these guidelines were viewed by the senior members of our SOGP executive board and members of the academic board. And after these guidelines, we have disseminated on the SOGP websites. And I hope every one of our healthcare providers will benefit from these guidelines. Now there is a lot of confusion about this vaccination against COVID-19. whether it is can be used in pregnancy and breastfeeding women or not. There are a lot of trials have been conducted all over the world, and we know that still these trials are going on. And some people said it is safe, it can be given in the pregnant women and in the women who are breastfeeding. But you know there are a lot of confusion and myths about using this COVID vaccination. So we have all these panelists from our academic board and from the executive board and from the Ministry of Health and from the WHO to discuss today on this COVID vaccination, whether it is given to the patients during pregnancy and breastfeeding or not. So I hope from today's discussion, our healthcare provider, SOG member will get benefit from today's discussion. In this discussion, we have invited all of the senior members who are very experienced and very academic and who will discuss today about this vaccination. But one thing I want to tell you that the vaccination you have to discuss with the patients about the benefits, risks, and the side effects of this vaccination. Then let the patient to decide whether it is useful or unuseful. It is a patient's right to choose it. So I think this, but due to this COVID vaccination, I hope everyone will get today's discussion benefit from this. I am very thankful to all the panelists, moderators, speakers, and the SAMI Pharmaceutical Company for this today's discussion, for organizing this webinar on this very important topic about these guidelines regarding the COVID vaccination during pregnancy and lactation. On behalf of SOGP, I am very thankful to President Dr. Sadia Sempal, who has taken the lead in making these guidelines and also the guidelines of the COVID vaccination during pregnancy and breastfeeding. I am thankful to Dr. Qudsiya Usman from the WHO Pakistan office and Dr. Atiya Abdo from the Ministry of Health for being here today with us. I'm thankful that for them they have given their precious time to our SOGP members for SOGP to discuss today. But one thing I want to tell you, whether the vaccination has come or not, whether you can use or not, but one thing you have to remember that it is follow the SOPs. You have to, all the members, all the healthcare providers, all the viewers, all of you, you have to follow the SOPs. That is the social distance, wear a mask, and sanitizing your hands. So this I want to give you some advice to all of you. And today I hope we will discuss today what is the benefits, what are the risks, what are the side effects of COVID vaccination in pregnancy and breastfeeding. I am again thankful to pharmaceutical company for SAMI Pharmaceutical Company for arranging this webinar, helping the SOGP and all the academic activities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Razia, for your kind words and acknowledgement for our academic board, executive board, and Madam Sadia for having keen interest to develop these guidelines, and all the panelists who have joined us today. May I now request Dr. Sadia Sempal to kindly give us the talk which she has prepared for this webinar to let us know the current evidence about the vaccination in COVID, pregnant and breastfeeding moms. Thank you, Dr. Sadia.
Thank you, Dr. Halima. So I will, last year, around this time, we were all busy and very, very upset with the developing situation in Pakistan with the pandemic. And we were all working in a frenzy, and we came up with the guidelines. And I'm very, very happy that key people who contributed to that guideline are present in this meeting today. And especially Dr. Atiya Abru from the Health Ministry, who has been, who edited our guidelines and made them even better. And she was instrumental. She and Dr. Kutsia from WHO, who helped us develop it in a much better form in the end. And now the time has come that they need to be updated, especially in view of the vaccination situation and the confusion that exists in Pakistan. So just a brief introduction that vaccination in pregnancy is nothing new. But however, vaccination is generally avoided in pregnancy for some reason, myths and misconceptions. There is fear of harm to mother or baby. However, there is increasing evidence of safety to both and benefit to both the mother and baby. While we are talking about immunization of the pregnant women, there is we have an EPI schedule in all countries, including Pakistan, and all these vaccines are given to the baby in the newborn period as well as childhood. So immunization of the newborn infant generally starts at 6 weeks to 2 months of age in different countries. There is an immunity gap. Most childhood vaccinations don't give protection until the infant is a few months old. So until 6 weeks, the baby is unprotected, and this is a dangerous period. So when vaccines are developed, there is to be used in pregnant women. Careful pre-licensure study for safety is essential and is carried out. If pregnant women are inadvertently administered a vaccine, there is post-marketing safety evaluation, and this is very important. So far, this is what's been happening. However, during the H1N1 epidemic, which only happened a few years back, and we have short memories, it seems, we did vaccinate pregnant women because this carried a very high mortality if pregnant women got this swine flu. So it was routine to give the Tamiflu vaccine. We all got familiar with it, and we also increased mortality. Pertussis immunization program for pregnant women is happening in UK and California after the outbreak in infants, and there were increased number of deaths. So, and this is now available in Pakistan as well in a combination form. So maternal vaccination has the potential to reduce maternal as well as neonatal morbidity and mortality. Vaccines reduce childhood mortality, as I said earlier, because infants too young to be vaccinated are at high risk. From 6 to 8 weeks, it doesn't start. And most childhood vaccinations don't provide protection until the infant is several months old. So the immunity gap, as I mentioned earlier, is present. In this gap, there is higher morbidity and mortality due to infections in this group of infants. Now, there are many vaccines in current use in pregnant women. The combined Tdap, which is tetanus, diphtheria, acellular pertussis, this is available in Pakistan and we are using it. Hepatitis B, hepatitis E, influenza, meningococcal inactivated vaccine, which women often get when they go for Hajj or Umrah. It's a prerequisite. The polio virus, this is an inactivated virus, and this is also it's a live virus vaccine. It is still used because getting these infections is life-threatening, and it's more important, the life of the mother is more important than worrying about its effects on the fetus. So inadequate data for specific recommendation exists for these ones. Pneumococcal typhoid, and smallpox. And RSV and Group B streptococcus vaccine, these are under development. Some are integrated. In pregnancy, this is BCG Live, influenza, MMR, varicella, and zoster. So we do know that HPV vaccine, which is human papilloma virus vaccination, has happened inadvertently during pregnancy, and its safety has been confirmed. Women who received this during first trimester of pregnancy versus those who didn't receive any vaccine, and it's more than 7 years now, and no adverse effects have been noted on the fetus. And now we are in the middle of this pandemic and COVID-19 vaccination for pregnant women and breastfeeding women. There's a question mark, at least in Pakistan. There is in some countries like Israel and Belgium, there are no question marks. They are going ahead full steam for vaccinating their pregnant and breastfeeding mothers. And those are two countries with one of the best health indicators in the world, by the way. Now, Pakistan doesn't have all the vaccines. It is basically Sinopharm, the Chinese vaccine, which is available at the moment. We hear that maybe the Oxford AstraZeneca and the Sputnik, the Russian vaccine, may be coming soon in the private sector, but we don't know yet. But basically, it is Sinopharm, which is an inactivated virus vaccine, which is being administered in Pakistan on a priority basis. First, the healthcare workers, and now other groups are also being vaccinated. However, we have this contradictory advice or confusing advice coming from the government or health ministry, where lactating mothers and pregnant mothers should not be getting it. And this is cause for concern for us. And why? So while we're my dhakka starting, in the US, a vaccinated mother has already given birth to a newborn, and the newborn has COVID-19 antibodies. So there you are. So what we know about the RNA vaccines, these are new vaccines and they're not even available in Pakistan. This technology is new. This is for the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine. However, even with these vaccines, with all the hoo-ha about it, pregnant persons inadvertently enrolled in clinical trials, 23 pregnancies in the Pfizer trial, 12 in the vaccine arm, 13 pregnancies in the Moderna trial, 6 in the vaccine arm. And the safety monitoring was done, and they were found to be no adverse events, both in the mother and the fetus. So let's see what are the risks of COVID-19 infection. So when we started writing these guidelines, at that moment, we didn't know enough. Now, a year down the line, we know that there is a higher infection rate in pregnant women compared to non-pregnant. There are higher deaths, more ICU admissions, more ventilation, more long-term sequelae, more preterm births, more pregnancy loss, and they infect others, infecting fetal patients, infecting newborn. What are the benefits of COVID-19 vaccination for these ladies? It prevents infection. It prevents infection to others, not just themselves. Prevents severe disease, prevents preterm birth, prevents fetal infection, prevents neonatal infection. Antibodies in the breast milk protect the newborn as well, and prevents long-term sequelae. What are the risks of COVID-19 vaccination? Can cause an anaphylactic reaction, injection site pain, swelling, headache, tiredness, muscle aches, fever. Pregnant women in the trial included vaccine trial. Other vaccines have not shown any adverse pregnancy outcomes, no proven theoretical fetal risk, no proven theoretical maternal risk. So when you're counseling your patient or the pregnant woman who may be sitting in front of you, you have to take all these things into consideration. So the absolute risk of severe COVID-19 in pregnancy remains low. It is established now that pregnant women are at increased risk of severe COVID-19 associated illness compared to non-pregnant women, can require hospitalization, ICU admission, ventilation, and death. And preventing critical COVID-19 infection is of paramount importance for both the mother and her fetus. And clear guidance is needed on whether pregnant and breastfeeding women should receive a COVID-19 vaccine. FIGO has come up with their position statement, and FIGO is an authority which most countries or Gynae societies tend to follow because of their stature and the membership and the consensus that they develop for everything. So most countries have availability of COVID-19 vaccines now and are offering them to priority groups. Existing COVID-19 vaccines are use different technologies, as we know. So the FIGO statement is there are no risks, actual or theoretical, that would outweigh the potential benefits of vaccination for pregnant women. We support offering COVID-19 vaccination to pregnant and breastfeeding women. It urges that we have to empower women to make an informed choices. FIGO urges healthcare providers to support pregnant women to make an informed decision regarding COVID-19 vaccination in consultation with their obstetrician. And the counseling should include the level of activity of the virus in the local community, as we are seeing an upsurge in Pakistan right now. Potential efficacy of the vaccine, well, we don't have a choice. We only have Sinopharm, which so far has proven to be quite safe in the population that has been vaccinated. Lack of safety data specific to its use in pregnancy. Risk and potential severity of maternal disease, including the possible effects of the disease on the fetus and newborn. And timing of vaccination during pregnancy. So, you would like that the woman gets vaccinated, like they're doing for Tdap, I guess, between 27 to 36 weeks, so that the body has enough time to form the antibodies, the IgG antibodies, which would cross the placenta and protect the baby. Side effects that are considered as normal part of the body's reaction to the vaccine, which is more prevalent among younger people due to the overreaction of the immune system. Fever, one of the most common side effects reported with COVID-19 vaccines, can be managed by acetaminophen, which is considered safe during pregnancy and should not theoretically impact the antibody response to COVID-19 vaccines. The existing COVID-19 vaccines are not live virus vaccines. The mRNA vaccines do not cause any genetic changes since they do not alter human DNA. They do not cause infertility. There is no evidence so far. So a risk-based approach may put pregnant women at a disadvantage. So when you say, or any government says, or any health authority says that pregnant women should be excluded and only given the vaccine if they have comorbidities, for example, diabetes and heart disease, they are doing a disfavor to the pregnant woman because pregnancy itself is a risk factor. So it excludes the pregnant women who do not have comorbidities. So it's unfair. And it may put other pregnant women who are considered at increased risk of severe COVID-19 illness at a disadvantage due to limited access to the vaccine. So which vaccine to give? There's currently no preference for the use of any particular COVID-19 vaccine. Pregnant women who agree to be vaccinated should be advised to complete their 2 doses where applicable, because now in the US, there's a single shot vaccine as well, which we don't have. And it should be the same vaccine product, not a different make or a different company. COVID-19 vaccine series should be administered without any other vaccine with a minimum interval of 14 days before or after administration of any other vaccine. Hence, vaccines including Tdap, which is tetanus toxoid, diphtheria, pertussis, and influenza, which are routinely and safely offered during pregnancy, should be deferred for 14 days from administration of COVID-19 vaccines. So giving the COVID-19 vaccine takes preference or precedence to any other vaccination in pregnancy. You should do that, give COVID first, and then 14 days later, tetanus or any other influenza if you're giving. Healthcare providers are urged to continue to advise their pregnant patients that vaccination against influenza is safe throughout pregnancy and is recommended during the influenza season to protect both the mother and fetus, and particularly so during the COVID-19 pandemic. The practice of offering Tdap vaccine between the 27th and 36th weeks of pregnancy in each pregnancy should also continue to be followed. Pregnant women who decline vaccination against COVID-19 should be supported in their decision and should be updated with new evidence when it becomes available. Women planning their pregnancy can take the COVID-19 vaccine if they choose to do so. What about breastfeeding? COVID-19 vaccines are believed to pose minimal to no potential risk to the newborn through breast milk. Based on previously administered vaccines, there is potential for direct neonatal benefit if the vaccine stimulated immunoglobulin A proves to pass through the breast milk. And we now have a case where it is shown. COVID-19 vaccine can be offered if the mother meets the criteria based on prioritization groups such as breastfeeding healthcare providers. We are vaccinating our patients who happen to be doctors, who are, I've just advised vaccination for a breastfeeding mother doctor who's working in a public hospital. So as additional data from clinical trials and vaccinated pregnant women becomes available, it will be imperative for obstetricians to keep up to date with all the information. And FIGO encourages and supports the publication and dissemination of all available data on vaccination in pregnant and breastfeeding women, advocates for the administration of COVID-19 to all pregnant women. When more research data is available, FIGO will review this statement and any advice we have provided to ensure it is clear and accurate. Now, the RCOG has given similar guidelines, but it's not as let's say, clear as it leaves the decision-making, informed decision-making to the woman who needs the vaccination, and WHO has also got a similar statement. While the ACOG and CDC are more focused, and ASRM, which is the Society of Reproductive Medicine, as well as ESHRE, as experts in reproductive health, they continue to recommend that even prior to pregnancy, they should get vaccinated. However, this is just a repetition of what I said. So in conclusion, vaccination during pregnancy can play an important role in improving maternal and infant health and survival. More and more vaccines are being added to the safety list, including COVID-19 vaccine. A doctor's recommendation is the most important in decision-making. And we know this through our own experience and many audits that we do in projects that we undertake, that when a doctor is recommending something, patients are more likely to take up that intervention or that treatment. And in our setup, often they say, Doc Saab, aap khud bataएं, aap jo kahenge, hum wahi karenge. So that puts the burden on the doctor, the decision making. While other societies, some of them, not all of them, in some countries, are putting the burden on the pregnant woman to make that decision, and that's not an easy decision for any pregnant woman to make who happens not to be a doctor. So pregnant and breastfeeding doctors and nurses who do get vaccinated should share the experience. to boost public confidence. And this is happening. We all, most of us who got vaccinated as doctors, we shared our pictures on social media. And this was, I was actually asked by a doctor, a junior doctor, that please do, because there is vaccination hesitancy even amongst some of our colleagues, that, if you seniors and professors are getting vaccinated, it will give people confidence. So many of us have done that. And now I will request our pregnant doctors and nurses to share their experience. And recommendation is our professional responsibility. It is the professional responsibility of the obstetrician. So we have to, we owe this to our pregnant women. So that is all that I have to say. And I will now request, the panel discussion to start. I will stop the screen share, and Professor Halima.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Sadia, for bringing in the most important thing, that is the trust which our patients put on us. So over to you for the panel discussion, the learned panel, who are the leaders and who, in obstetric care. And I wish that all the practitioners get the recent evidence-based benefit from this discussion. So kindly over to you and the panelists for the question answer session now.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Halima. I will start with Dr. Batul, if she is okay with that.
Please.
Professor Batul, you come from Islamabad, which is the capital of Pakistan and one of the largest teaching government hospitals dealing with so many patients. So I would like you to share your opinion about vaccination and your own experience as to what's happening.
Thank you, Sadia, for giving me this opportunity. We have been seeing COVID in pregnancy. And initially, we thought that perhaps it is going to be very similar because these are young, healthy patients and pregnancy is just incidental. But we had the worries of influenza being worse in pregnancy. So it has been a mixed bag picture. We've had some asymptomatic women coming in with COVID and doing very well. But with the recent third wave, I've had very serious concerns. The moment this third wave has come in, we've had few asymptomatic positive and we've had very bad symptomatic women coming in with COVID in pregnancy. So this third wave is extremely worrying, and somehow this seems to be causing more morbidity. We just see the tip of the iceberg, a few pregnant women. So we can't make the whole picture. As far as our own experience with pregnant and lactating women is concerned, our doctors, a few of them, my own assistant professor, she's pregnant about 24 weeks and she went off and had her vaccination. Similarly, one of my doctors, she's breastfeeding. She went off and for her vaccination and the nurse refused. She said, you are lactating. The government instructions are that you are not allowed to have vaccination. So she came back, then she asked me and I said, I would advise you that if you are ready for this vaccination, go ahead and have it. So she went off, did not tell her that she's breastfeeding and got the vaccination. So I think that is why we have Atiya Abru with us as well, and we are all sitting here. Would encourage. We would like to encourage our the healthcare workers. It doesn't mean only the doctors, our sanitary workers, our ayahs. They are extremely exposed. Our nurses, all exposed, and we would like them all to be offered this vaccine, and they should be encouraged to accept it.
Thank you, Dr. Batul. And I will now request Professor Shaila Bakai, General Shaila Bakai, Major General, who has kindly joined us from Lahore, CMH. And she has also been on the forefront in the armed forces and one of the people who got vaccinated quite early as well. So can you unmute yourself, Professor Shella? Yes. Would you like to share your vaccination experience and that of any pregnant women and your
Thank you,
opinion
Sadia.
about it? Yes.
Thank you, Sadia. It's so good to see everybody on at least virtually. And you see, pregnant women have always been recognized as a vulnerable and a prioritized group. And we have seen there is a potential for severe disease. And ever since the third wave, we see more ICU admissions. So we definitely want to reduce the severity. And we have had certain requests. I was asked to formulate a policy for vaccination of women in pregnancy for the armed forces. And we did discuss and we thought that it is essential. And we have started to recommend it after 13 weeks of pregnancy. We thought the period of organogenesis should be avoided. And we are recommending it up to term, we are recommending the same 2 doses because we just have Sinopharm available with us. There were requests, but the people who really administer at the regional vaccination centers, RVCs, they are refusing. So 2 of our postgraduates, they did get vaccinated, but without disclosing that they are pregnant again. But this should not be the case. Everybody should get clear recommendations. At least a discussion should take place. And if the obstetrician recommends, they should be given the vaccination. This is what I feel. And for lactating women, we have declared it completely safe. We are not going by that. In pregnancy, we are exerting a little caution. We recommend it after 13 weeks of pregnancy. And in lactating women, we have declared it completely safe because we have seen many vaccinations under different viruses, the H1N1, the Tamiflu, and we have these viral vaccines. Obviously, the messenger RNA and the vector virus RNA vaccines, they're not even available in our country. So I don't think we have a reason to stop vaccinating the pregnant women. I'm making a very strong statement, but this is what my feeling is.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shella. But you know, the strong statements you're not the only one. We're all making it. And so have the most powerful bodies of obs and gynae like FIGO. You know, so there, and many others, I listed some. So you have
we are all learning. Initially, there were statements by ACOG that we need to have transparent, detailed discussions. But now on 21st of March, 2021, a statement has been issued just 3 days ago or 2 days ago that they are going ahead with the recommendation for vaccination pregnancy. Yeah.
Yes, so that's very heartening. I will, Dr. Attia will be the last person who will sum up. I will now request Professor Rehana Rahim from Lady Reading Hospital, Peshawar, to give her experience and opinion, please. Professor Rehana.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Sadia. Thanks for inviting us to be panelists on this very important topic. I just finished my clinic and I got a patient who's working as a frontline health worker. And she asked me, Madam, I had my first dose of vaccination 3 weeks ago, and now I have found out that I am pregnant. So what are your recommendations? And I said, please go ahead and get your second dose. So that was the first experience. And since we have been informed about this panel discussion, I've been doing research and I've come across patients, and we all agree that pregnancy predisposes the patient's heart and lungs. It's a prothrombotic state, which is the basic pathophysiology of COVID-19 as well. So together, these two conditions will definitely land up in more complications, more ICU admissions, more ventilator support. About 4 weeks ago, we had a pulmonologist, a doctor, and she was about 34 weeks pregnant when she was diagnosed with COVID. Imagined herself to be a pulmonologist. And I received a call middle of the night whether to expedite the delivery by doing cesarean section. Anyway, the baby was delivered. The baby came out to be quite well, was admitted to an ICU. The mother, in fact, got a postnatal fit and was diagnosed with eclampsia. She received Maxilf. She was on ventilator for about 48 to 72 hours, and then she recovered. So that was one of the worst experiences of COVID-19 in pregnancy. And imagine this in a pulmonologist, a leading pulmonologist of Peshawar. So I would agree, COVID-19 vaccination should be strongly recommended, as pregnancy and COVID-19 together, they do not go well. We need to promote the vaccination since we have clear recommendations now. And I would agree that the patient needs to have her informed decision. Once we have discussed the pros and cons, we still believe probably the trials will take a bit longer time to definitely give a clearance regarding the vaccine. But so far, about quite a few trials which have been conducted, this trial of about 20,000 women in USA who got vaccinated and who were not reported to have any adverse effects, strongly suggests and gives us a clear message that vaccination should get a green signal from government of Pakistan as well. And the messages should be perhaps posted or shared or advertised in all antenatal clinics. And of course, the leaders, the professors, the heads and in charges of the units should strongly promote it. Thank you, Sadia.
Thank you very much, Professor Rehana. And I have a request to all three of you and all, Professor Halima and myself, that whichever pregnant women that we are dealing with who get vaccinated, doctors or otherwise, we should report their experience. And it is our duty to share it now, so that we have a Pakistani data that, look, these women got vaccinated and baby had antibodies, baby should be tested for antibodies, and then we can be confident, more confident. But at the moment, I agree with you, it is our duty to recommend. I would like now Dr. Atiya Abru to give her opinion about, maybe she could explain to us why the government has decided to prohibit vaccination for pregnant women. Yes, Dr. Atiya, and what we can do about it, how can we change the mind of the government? After all, we, the gynecologists and obstetricians of Pakistan, should really be the authority on this. Should we not? Or maybe we should be consulted. So we'll have your opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Satya. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank SOGP for the great support which has been provided to us from this forum for the development of COVID-19 management in pregnant women guidelines and the case reporting form. I'm really very much thankful to all the leading gynecologists and obstetricians of our country from across Pakistan who had been a great support to us. And at the same time, we are very much thankful to WHO. The colleagues from WHO, they supported us not only from the country office, but also from EMRO office and from headquarters. So we were, as you said earlier, that last year, when the first case of COVID-19 was reported in February, on 26th of February in Pakistan, since then we are facing a lot of challenges regarding the first wave, then the second wave, and now we are facing the third, the most severe form of COVID-19. The greatest number of COVID-19 cases are coming up now during this third phase, and we are really very much upset with this wave of COVID, which seems to be rising with time. As far as the vaccination regarding pregnant and lactating women is concerned, Yes, I agree with you. You are the experts, you are the clinicians, you are dealing with the patients. And as you have already, some of you have already stated that you came across one or two pregnant women who got vaccinated during this time. Um, Unfortunately, we don't have much evidence, we don't have much data. And as far as the pregnant women's vaccination is concerned, one thing I would like to request all of you that please, whenever you get your patients vaccinated during pregnancy and lactation, especially during pregnancy, please, please, please keep a record of them and monitor them for a long time, even after they deliver, and not only for themselves, but also for their babies, because it needs to be a long-term monitoring. The effects of vaccine cannot be um, seen just immediately after the newborn baby is out of mother's womb. So it needs long-term monitoring as far as the effects of vaccine are concerned, because there is all over the world not much evidence is there. Yes, clinical trials have been conducted, but there's not a large number of pregnant women who have been clinically who have been included in the clinical trials for vaccination. So the guidelines for vaccination, which were issued by Ministry of National Health Services Regulations and Coordination on 4th of Feb. They recommend, in fact, I should not say recommend, but they state that the Sinopharm vaccine, because right now Pakistan is just, government is just administering Sinopharm, you know, and Sinopharm vaccine is not recommended for pregnant women because the evidence is not there. Safety monitoring is not there. Safety monitoring is needed. Much of the data is lacking. So, so far, there is not much data on the effects of Sinopharm if given during pregnancy. So government is right now not recommending it for routine use in pregnancy. But yes, we do follow CDC guidelines, and CDC says, as you already said, that vaccination, getting vaccinated is personal choice. It is the choice of women. If she wants to get vaccinated, as you people said, that some of your students and your colleagues who got vaccinated because of their own choice and they didn't tell the provider that she is pregnant. So it is the it is the choice of the lady. If she wants to get vaccinated, she should be vaccinated. CDC says so, and you clinicians also say so. But I would recommend SOGP to please, please, please put up and document the cases, and please send us some sort of you can say some sort of recommendations regarding safe use of vaccination during pregnancy, so that we can take it up and we can discuss it in the vaccination experts committee. And if they agree to it, then the guidelines can be updated as per FIGO's statement. But I will again say that regarding Sinopharm vaccine, it's not a it's a inactivated vaccine. But in Americas, you know, Pfizer and Janssen and Moderna have been used, and they are non-live vaccines, and they are actually messenger RNA vaccines, and they are much safer. So if 20,000 women have been vaccinated in America, they were not using this Sinopharm. In Pakistan, right now, we are using Sinopharm. So we should be very, very careful about the use of this vaccine. I will again say that as the data is not available with us, we don't have evidence to use it safely during pregnancy. That's why government has not yet recommended it to be used in routine. If you people provide us with some evidence or you recommend it, then we can present it to the experts committee, and then it can only then be added in the guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Athiya, for showing us the way. Of course, the government has to behave in a very responsible fashion. So I would just like to point out that there is more hype about the mRNA vaccine in the public as compared to Sinopharm, being inactivated virus is like all other vaccines which are used in pregnancy quite safely. And how did the US vaccine, how did they get those 20,000 women was inadvertent vaccination, meaning the women got vaccinated, some deliberately and some didn't know they were pregnant, and it has been found to be safe. So you're so right that we need to collect our own data so that we can come up with our own safety profile. And I see Professor Shella raising a hand. I think she needs to say something. Yes, Professor Shella.
Thank you. I am very, Dr. Atia Abru rightly said we need more data, but that would be too late then. You see,
Yes.
we are recording the data of the two trainees that I told you about, and any subsequent case will be recorded in the registry. We are maintaining data, but the data would be at least 2 years from now. You know, pregnancy, the child being born, then the milestones being checked on the baby, but it would be followed up, but that would be too late. We have to see how these vaccines are made. The messenger RNA vaccine, the Pfizer, BioNTech, and the Moderna, those are the ones which are novel in design, and they have not been tried as yet. But even those are being declared with patient discussion as safe in pregnancy. While we had that Ebola vaccine trial in 2009, which used the viral vector, and that had demonstrated safety, and it did reduce perinatal morbidity, mortality, as well as maternal ICU admissions and maternal morbidity. So we have those trials which showed the design was in use. So I think we should get wiser. We should be proactive. At least declare these vaccines with the obstetrician certificate. If an informed discussion takes place with the obstetrician, they should be declared safe for, and the patient is willing. The government should be
Thank
willing for
you.
that.
Yes, and I think Dr. Atia, perhaps you could arrange a Zoom meeting because physical meetings are out, and we are willing to have a discussion, with the government, with the movers and shakers. We just heard Professor Rehana Rahim relating the story of COVID, an ID expert who was treating COVID patients in Peshawar, and she nearly died. And maternal death is a reality, and there is increased chance of maternal death from COVID infection. We didn't know this a year back, but we know this now from data that they are more likely to get ventilated, they're more likely to. So vaccination, even if it harms the baby, in my opinion, is the mother is more precious. The mother's life comes first, even if, and we have no evidence of harm at the moment, but we always put the mother first. We do deliver women from preterm, from preeclampsia or a fit, don't we? We don't care about the baby at that time.
Sadia,
So
we do have
similarly,
evidence now, because
yeah,
initially the first two waves we did not see morbidity and mortality. But last night I was told there were two cases in CMH Hyderabad who were not diagnosed. They presented with multi-organ failure, they needed ventilatory support, and their COVID test came out to be positive, and they both died. So you see,
yeah,
these kind of
the
stories would be happening. Yeah.
yes, so initially our problem was we didn't have enough tests. Even now we don't have enough tests. And there were many reports in our audit meetings where they would say they from Larkana and even Karachi that we didn't even have time to test the woman. The relatives refused and she just died. So this is happening even now, and we as it is our professional responsibility to say the right thing and stand up for the mothers. Even our religion says that the mother's life comes first. It takes priority. A mother's death is very, very, very tragic. So we are very fortunate that Dr. Atia has given us the right advice. And we did have a question that I saw that can we vaccinate in the first trimester as well. And Shala, you already gave an answer, but even FIGO and WHO is saying the same sort of thing, that you have to see the country situation. If you are getting waves of so many women coming very sick with with COVID in pregnancy, then the only thing you have in your arsenal is to vaccinate, to prevent that situation. If it's on the rise, if it's going down, then there's plenty of discussion, and you can have like the slide I showed, what are the pros and cons, which we have to go through anyway. But in Pakistan, it's so important to have our government's guidelines, because the patients, so far our pregnant women have been medical professionals, doctors, who have made the choice that I want to be vaccinated. I don't want to die. Okay, that's the difference. So, but our average patient is going to say, Doctor Saab, aap bataiye, आप जो even when we are counseling for contraception, this is what they say, आपको पता है आप जो फैसला करें. तो हमारे ऊपर बहुत बड़ी responsibility आ जाती है. Batul, would you like to say something? I can see you. Yeah. To conclude, I just want a final comment. If Dr. Athiya wants to give it, that's fine. Otherwise,
just make one comment, Sadia. It is currently being offered to healthcare providers as a priority. We have a very resource of vaccine. We are a poor country, and we are privileged as health workers to be offered free vaccine. And healthcare workers are very high risk for COVID infection. And I think there should be no ambiguity in the recommendation today that we recommend that all healthcare workers who are pregnant or breastfeeding should go for a vaccination. About the low-risk pregnant women, those who are at home, they are not being offered free, because it is, again, a public health initiative. And so it becomes very difficult when you don't have enough vaccines to ask all pregnant women to be vaccinated. How will they be vaccinated? So the recommendation, at least the one I think we can all agree on, that the healthcare workers are high risk, and we would want that the government also supports that initiative, that they say that it is being considered and it can be offered. So I think that is the first step in the right direction.
Thank you, Professor Batul. And I would just like to add that we are forgetting so many of our obstetrician trainees and postgraduates and consultants who have died of COVID in the last year. And it has been tragic. It's just very, very upsetting. So I'll let Dr. Athiya conclude, but before her conclusion, I would just like to say that from this meeting, we will come up with a consensus statement from SOGP and we'll submit it to the government, Ministry of Health. So what do you think about that, Dr. Athiya?
That would be really great, Dr. Sadia. I'm very happy, and I'm very much thankful to all of you that you have taken up such an important issue on board. Vaccination of pregnant women is really a very, very important thing to look at the government level. And if something is recommended from SOGP, from FIGO, from the clinicians, from the professional associations, government has to take it into account. And I'm really looking forward to all of you to please come up with these recommendations. And as Dr. Batul has said, that we have a limited number of vaccines right now, and as government is offering this vaccination in the first instance for the healthcare providers, and then now for elderly people. So at least the doctors and paramedics, female paramedics and doctors who are pregnant, they should get it is though their own choice, but it has to be it is available for the healthcare providers. But if it is recommended from SOGP, then it might be included in the guidelines that I know they should not be refused, but as such, it is not being included in the guidelines. to vaccinate pregnant women. So we need some evidence or some data to convince the experts committee to include it in the guidelines. So I'm really thankful to all of you for taking up this important issue. And I hope that you people will definitely provide. If you say you want to have a Zoom meeting, yes, I can arrange, and I will let you know. And we can have a much deeper discussion on this issue. And let's hope for the best. And till then, I'm looking forward to getting some sort of recommendation, some documentation, which can make it easy for me to get approval and get it updated in the guidelines. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Abru. We would like to appreciate the government's efforts they have made.
Yes.
People have been talking very high about their experiences of getting vaccinated at the Expo Center and everything. So an appreciation for the government also.
Yes,
Thank
hats
you,
off
thank you.
in difficult times. We are all very appreciative. Thank you so much. Professor Halima, would you like to give your vote of thanks?
Yes, Dr. Sadia. As I don't see Dr. Khadija among the panelists, so I would like to present my formal vote of thanks to all panelists, especially Madam Atiya Abru, for being here with us today. This is very encouraging to know that government, being in a very responsible position and obviously in a vulnerable position to be criticized in a very easy manner by all of us, the public, is really putting it forward with evidence, and they want us to put forward a recommendation or a position statement, especially at least for healthcare workers to be vaccinated, even if they are pregnant or breastfeeding. That is very, very encouraging to come from your side. At the same time, my very, very sincere gratitude to all ministries of health at the provincial as well as central level. Madam Atiya sitting there at National Ministry was very, very helpful and supportive for us. But at the same time, the provincial governments to have these vaccination centers established properly and running properly round the clock, it's something very encouraging for us health workers to see that now if the public, especially the healthcare workers, are vaccinated, things inshallah will change. I understand the third wave is coming up very scaringly. We are all afraid because of that, but let's hope and let's keep our hands crossed that it also goes away. My special thanks to Professor Sadia Ehsanpal for asking us to have this webinar arranged, and thank you very much for your very valuable input and your very evidence-based talk, which really would have changed the minds of so many of us. My special thanks to Professor Sheila Bakai, Professor Batul Mazhar, Professor Rehana Rahim for sharing their experiences and their own opinions, because they are the leaders. We look upon to them. A lot of trainees, a lot of patients, a lot of healthcare workers look upon you people as very senior opinion leaders. And if it comes up from you, and if you say this so boldly, then it's our duty to take it up and look into the evidence and really try to create evidence. We will create evidence. It won't just drop in from the sky. At the same time, I'm very grateful to very senior members who have logged in the attendees. I'm seeing very, very senior members of SOGP, including Dr. Nadeem Zubairi, Madam Asif Zia, a lot, Mehrunissa Nurani, Madam Nilofer Salim, Rakshanda Tayyab, Madam Sumaira Qayyum, Madam Tasneem Ashraf, and a lot of members of academic board who are there in the attendee panel. We offered you to write down all the questions and queries and comments in the chat box if there was any. I somehow could not reach to Facebook because of some connectivity issue on my phone. So I don't know what are the queries on the Facebook, but if there are any, I will request Dr. Sadia to respond to them over the next few weeks. And I'm grateful to Sami Pharma for being a partner with us in this academic activity. And to President SOGP, Professor Razia Kurejo, all executive members for letting us hold these web-based CMEs so that the knowledge is updated. We are connected virtually to one another and to our members. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Allah
you.
Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.